Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Penny Woolery and I'm the Manager of Certification and Membership with AAC International. I've been with AACE for 12 years and it's always something new and really exciting. So I'm excited to share this moment with you. Before we get started, I just wanted to let our attendees know that you're not able to speak to us to ask your question. You need to use some of the tools they should be at the bottom of your screen. You want to look for the Q&A icon. It's two bubbles at the Q&A under it. That's where you want to ask all of your questions. And we have moderators that I'm going to introduce to you in just a moment who will moderate those questions for our panelists. So please make sure, put all of your questions there. Do not use the chat. That is simply for you to be able to send a message to maybe another attendee or something else that you might need to chat. But if you put your questions in there, they won't be answered. You'll need to put them into the Q&A. So having said all of that, I'm going to turn it over to Val and Sarah to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Valerie Smith. I'm the Senior Credentialing Analyst for the Certification Department. I also have been with AACE almost, well, technically 12 years, but officially almost 12 years. So I started as a temp and came on permanently next month, 12 years ago. So very close. I handle the basically the daily operations of the professional and the expertise level certifications, and manage a lot of the grader coordination so that your technical papers can be graded. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Sarah.
Hi, my name is Sarah Peters. I'm the credentialing analyst here at AACE. I have been here around 4.5 years in the certification department. On a daily basis, I handle the technician level certifications as well as recertification and also grader training.
Awesome. Thank you, Val and Sarah. I now want to introduce to you the chair of the certification board, Charlie Bolliard. Take it away, Charlie.
Thanks, Penny. I appreciate that. And thank you to everyone who's participating. Particularly, this is the first of our Ask Me Anything series of webinars for 2022. The objective of the Ask Me Anything webinar series is to provide people who are interested in AACE's certification program an opportunity to meet the members of the committees that comprise the certification board, and to ask questions and discuss the certification process. And with us today, we have the availability of the Certified Cost Professional / Certified Cost Technician Committee. Val Venters is the chair of that, and she's joined by Catherine Tronsberg Machioka, Albert Quan, Rash Patel, and George Ostermeyer. So Valerie, you're welcome to offer any remarks and kick off the discussion.
Great. Well, thank you, Charlie, and thank you, Penny. This is going to be a really fun session. We had this last year and we had lots of good questions and we really gave out a lot of good information. So I'm excited that we're doing it again this year. Like Charlie said, my name is Valerie Venters. I've been with the certification, well, with AACE and the certification board for about 20 years. It has grown to be almost my lifetime passion, I think, to give back and to help the ones that I have worked with over the years and the young professionals coming up. The ability and some of the skills and knowledge to become certified and to really be able to get into their cost or schedule or estimate or risk and all the components of project services, project controls. And I really do hope that each of you on this webinar would be able to take something back to your workplace and be able to really get excited, I guess, about being certified and being able to be the who's who and the person that everybody goes to in your company. So George, do you want to introduce yourself as part of our CCP and CCT team?
Sure. My name is George Ostermeyer. I've been with AACE as a member since 1990, and I've been certified since 91. I first learned about AACE when I was a project controls manager for General Electric at an outage at Pilgrim Station, which is a nuclear plant near Plymouth, Massachusetts. An individual I interfaced with told me about the organization and the certification. And I let it lay fallow for a few years until GE and I parted ways, and decided I needed to that the organization be good for networking, and that the certification would give me a leg up as I sought further employment. And it has done both that. So rather than monopolize the floor, I'll pass it on. Albert,
Kathy? Or Albert?
Albert, you're muted.
Sorry, my name is Albert Quan, and I have been certified for over 20 years. And I have been on the certification board for 10 years. And I find AAC is very beneficial to my career and help you find jobs. And I got headhunter calling me. And also at the same time, I learned some new skills and meet some new friends. And the reason why I want to join the certification board is I want to help out to you guys. I mean, so help you to give you direction so you can get certified too. In my spare time, I like to play soccer, and that's pretty much it. And I'll pass on to
Catherine.
Hi, folks. My name is Catherine Transberg-Machoka, and I have been a member in AACE since 2002, roughly, and certified since 2003. And I was first utilizing my background and my certification with respect to power plant work that I did for Westinghouse, both in construction and then in some operational roles that I had. But then I moved over in 1997 to tax and consulting. And I have found that because of my background, I've been able to utilize the information that I learned in the field, as well as my certification, to apply that to the kinds of energy projects that my clients in the tax world have. And so I use a lot of the estimating, a lot of the project management information that and skills that I gained early in my career, even today. And so I get very excited to tell people that there's multiple ways that your certification can provide you professional opportunities and let you explore other areas with respect to, the information and the education that you're going to get.
Thank you. Rush?
Hello all, I'm Rash Patel. I'm certified since 2012, but being a member of AAC since like 1 year before, like 2011. And almost like 16 years, like when oil and gas and nuclear industry, but more so talking about CCP when I appeared first in CCP. I only can say that these certifications and the process like the AAC has established going through this examination is rigorously testing knowledge, skills, and experience all together, but more so like making you professionally so competent that you can stand before like, in any professional and in your company too, like, it adds some more credentials, like I could say that. So you can differentiate yourself like with the people who are, I'm not saying that were not certified versus certified, but it definitely adds a different perspective to your personality in terms of the professionalism, definitely. So yeah, that's all I can say. And I'm really excited to be continue with the board member. I just became a board member. And I would like to contribute definitely going back to and help people like getting certified. But just to quote one example, like when I was a project controls manager and when I had to hire the people, like, so this is the one thing I was putting in my requirement is this is the certification I need, definitely. So that's what like, you definitely can make difference in everywhere, like, so That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rush, and thank you all for sharing your personal certification story. I'm about to launch right now. One question for you attendees. Pick the most appropriate answer to what is your certification story so that we can know the type of people that are attending this webinar today, and it might help us to learn how to help you along this journey. So if you would take a second, I'm just going to wait just a few seconds for the attendees, and then we're going to get right into the questions and our panelists will answer. So I'm going to close it in 3, 2, 1. So get it in there. I'm going to end it right now. Thank you so much. So now I'm going to turn it over to our moderators. Sarah and Val, do we have any questions from our attendees?
We do. So the first question we have is somebody on here, a participant has a friend who's thinking about taking the CCT, thinks it'll be easier than the CCP, and is asking, isn't the only difference the qualifications to take the test? Are the test and paper that he would have to write requirements the same for both the CCT and the CCP? So yeah, you want to break that question down into pieces? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's start with is it easier?
That's a tricky question. And really the word easier can be a little bit misleading because the CCT is really targeting the less experienced person, professional out there in the workplace. For the CCT, you only need about 4 years of experience and a 4-year degree, or if you do not have a degree, then 8 years of experience. And so anyone who's taking the CCT is going to have less experience than a seasoned cost analyst or a cost engineer. And therefore, the questions that are on the CCT exam are geared for a little less experience level, a little less analysis level, but they are not easy. They're not gimme questions by any means, but they are geared to a person who is in the workplace that may be at an entry level or maybe getting to a mid-level of their career. And just logically, you look at that and say that the two exams would have to be different because we're targeting two different levels of experience in the workplace.
Yeah, Val, if I may, the qualification or the requirement for the CCT is only a 4-year degree or 4 years of experience. The total of the 8 is for the CCP.
Right, and, sorry.
Yeah, well, and the questions for the CCT, I would say, are probably more straightforward than the CCP ones because of the difference of the expectation in experience.
Right.
So to answer your question, does that make it easier? Maybe, but for someone of the appropriate experience level, we hope that it would still be a challenging exam. But the questions are geared towards someone with less experience.
I want to tag on to that, George, and just say, so if a person had the requisite 8 years of experience that could qualify for the CCP exam, but they opted to take the CCT exam because they perceive it to be easier, do you think that would make it easier for someone who has that?
If someone has the experience to take the professional level exam and opts to take the technician level exam, it should not be as challenging. plus the fact you do not have to write the paper for the technician level. But bear in mind that the technician level certification, while it's good for 4 years, is not renewable. So you're real, you know, if you want to take, if someone wanted to take it as, you know, a practice run, that's possible, but that's an expensive practice run.
I was just going to say, George, that we have had a number of people who have opted to take the CCT first to kind of get their feet wet, see what our exams are like, and then have gone, you know, with various time ranges to sit for the CCP exam. I think it gives them a certification while they're preparing for the CCP exam. So they actually are standing apart from the rest of their peers, holding a certification. And then of course, then when they go to sit for the CCP, then they are at least a little bit more familiar with how the CCP exam will be. Now, also keep in mind that the CCT exam is open book. So that is something that is a benefit for those taking that exam. The CCP exam is not open book.
Good.
If I may add to that a little bit, all of the examinations, whether they are the technician level or the professional level, are meant to challenge a person's training, acquired skills, and the competencies that they've learned and developed. So they're all challenging exams.
That's a good point. I think the answer is no, they're not easy. You want to break the other part of the question down?
Well, actually, I think we actually answered them. The only difference, the qualifications to take the test. We did answer that. No, that's not the only difference. And are the test and paper that he would write requirements the same for both the CCT and the CCP? And absolutely not the same. The technical paper is only a requirement for the CCP, and that has to be submitted at the time of registration. The CCT does not have a written component to the exam.
Okay, cool. Do we have any other questions?
Not at this time.
Not at this time. Well, I have a question. We get asked this all the time. Do I have to be a member to take a certification exam?
And the answer to that is no.
And why is why?
It is beneficial to be a member in that there is a difference in the price structure for members and non-members, but no, it is not required that you be a member to take the exam or to be certified.
Well, that's a great answer. And I want to tag on to that the reason that there's a lot of misunderstanding when you are associated with AACE, that being certified and being a member are one and the same, and that's not true. And the reason that we don't require it is because accreditation prohibits you from requiring someone to be a member of your association when they may simply just want to have your certification. So that's why we don't require it. But I do have another question that we get asked a lot. When it comes to the resources and preparation, so are there any courses or anything that AAC can provide that would prepare a person to take the exam?
Well, recently we have really gotten the education board, AACE International Education Board has really put a lot of effort into developing some online learning modules. And these modules will be, if you want to call it a prep for the certification, and eventually it will be for all the certifications, but they did start with the CCP. And so as the education board continues to work on these modules, there will be a wealth of information and prep for our certification. Right now, there is not a prep course, if you want to call it that. And so we're really looking forward to having our education board complete these learning modules, because this will really be the platform to go out and get the necessary competence and learnings that will help you with the successful CCP.
May I tag on, Val, for just a moment? So if you go to the AACE website, and there is a certification hub in the website, but there's information about each of the certifications, and particularly for the certified cost technician and certified cost professional. There's a section that identifies related AACE publications and perhaps other materials from industry that would help you prepare. Also, many of the sections of AACE International, as well as several of the regions, so several sections get joined into a region, sponsor training and preparation seminars or preparation courses. Of course, in participating in those, you're not going to be seeing the examination questions that will show up on the screen when you sit to take the exam. But the preparation courses are good, and all of the materials that are referenced in the certification component of the website are readily available and very good for use in preparing for the exams.
Awesome.
There's also a CCP prep course that will be announced soon. I know that's up and coming, but I don't believe there's a date set for it yet.
Yes, that is, stay tuned to our website under upcoming events that will tell you when these training sessions or webinars will be held. But you're right, thanks for telling us that. I did get a question, I think maybe by mistake, in the chat. So instead of waiting for, it's not like we have a whole host of questions in the queue, but an attendee asked, how is the paper graded and the test graded? And can you score high on the paper and help your score on the test to get a better overall pass rate? So that's 3 questions. So, well, we're gonna say, how is the paper graded first?
Do you want me to take that?
Yeah.
Please, Val.
Okay. So the paper is assigned to 3 individual graders. They do not correspond back and forth, and they follow a matrix that basically you go through the paper, and if the some requirements are met, then you get this many points and that many points. But it's a structured matrix that they return, and then those 3 scores are averaged together for your technical paper result.
Second part of the question, how is the test graded?
Do you want me to take that too?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm sorry, there are 120 multiple choice questions that are asked.
Hold on one second, make sure that you do both CCT and CCP. So go ahead and continue with the CCT.
Good call. So let's do the CCT first, because it's a little bit easier. Since there's no written component to the exam, and written component meaning like a technical paper or a memo or anything like that, it is a straight 100 questions. You have 3 hours to take your exam, and they are scored like 1 point for each question. So if you get 70% of the answers correct, then you receive a 70% on your exam and you pass. If you get less than 70%, then you fail the exam, and then you have the opportunity to resit. But that's a whole other situation. And you do get your results right away, because it is a very cut and dry, like this is your score and there's nothing else to figure into that. So then the CCP, it's 120 questions. You have 5 hours to take your exam. And the exam is broken into 4 parts. So the first part is 38 questions, and it's basic cost engineering skills and knowledge. The second part is economic analysis, which is 28 questions. The third part is project management, which is 27 questions. And the fourth part is cost estimating and control, which is 27 questions. Now, each of these topics are scored separately, and then all 4 scores are averaged together for your overall exam result that has to be 70% or higher in order to pass. So it's possible, depending on your scores for the topic, you could pass 3 sections and fail 1 and fail the exam, or vice versa. You could possibly fail 3 topics, pass 1, and if your score is high enough to bring that up, then you could pass the exam overall.
Okay, now, last part of the question is, can you score high on the paper that you talked about first to help on your score for the test to get a better overall pass rate?
Oh, can I please answer this one? So the scoring for the exam is separate from the scoring for the technical paper. So the scoring for the technical paper is purely based on the 3 graders that I talked about earlier. The scoring for the exam is the 4 topics overall. The difference is before we can give you the result, we have to see what the result of your paper is and what the result of your exam is, because you have to pass both the paper and the exam in order to receive the CCP. You cannot receive the CCP if you pass the exam but fail the technical paper.
Val?
Yes.
Do you not have to pass the technical paper before you can even sit for the exam?
George, that is a great question because I get asked that a lot. So because the exam itself is all multiple choice questions, what we do is we grade the technical paper at the front end of the exam. But because the overall result of whether or not you pass the CCP relies on both the exam and the technical paper, we don't give the result of the technical paper before you are able to sit for the exam. So when you are cleared to sit for your exam, what that means is your technical paper has been evaluated, we have the result in, and you are free to take the exam. The result won't be given to you until you finish the multiple choice portion and the results are tabulated for that.
Just like all of our other exams that have the written component during the exam. That's the way you have to look at this. Okay, so you just happen to do it on the front. It's part of the exam. You'll get whether or not you passed it at the very end. So CCP is the only one that has the writing assignment before you sit in front of your computer and take an exam, or at a testing center in front of a computer, where everyone else is writing those in real time. It's the only one that happens before you sit, but it still is one exam.
Right. And it also prevents people from getting a false sense of security, perhaps, for what the outcome of the overall result is. So if you pass the technical paper, you find out at the beginning, the attitude you might have going into the exam is a little bit different than if you failed the technical paper going into the exam. So this way, it's free and clear. You just know that it's been scored, and you'll receive the result when you're done with your exam.
Do we have any other questions? I saw something in the Q&A. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Charlie. I was ready to move along. Sorry.
No, that's all right. I'll wait. If we have no questions, I have a couple questions.
Okay, well, we will go to the next question in the Q&A. So for the CCP certification, do I need to study each section with the same intensity, or are there sections that I need to spend more time on?
Take option A. That's the safest way to do things.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think, it's very important that if you've had experience professionally in one of the areas, then certainly it's going to come much more easily to you. I found that there were things that I didn't have to study. It's been a while, but I didn't have to study because I did them every day. But the things that I didn't, just like you and your work today, I'm sure that you really want to focus your attention on the things that are are not familiar, not something that comes to you very easily, or that you have the opportunity to spend time on in your day-to-day work efforts.
The only caveat I will put to that is make sure that you review the conventions that AACE uses, that because they may be a little different than what your company uses.
George is right.
So-
You know, there's some terms or there's some wording that, you know, is not necessarily unique, but different from what I've seen in the past. And so you want to make sure that you're studying the materials that are available from AACE to know what the philosophy or the terminology is that will be shown on the exam.
Makes sense.
I have a question for the panelists because I do get this question a lot. So would you say that it's fair to go down through the recommended practice that's on the recommended study materials list to kind of gauge where you are as far as your knowledge for the exam? So say, you know, like 50% of the items, or are familiar with 50% of the items that are listed in the recommended practice, then that gives you, you know, fairly decent shot, and then you know where to study for the exam.
Yeah, I think that's a fairly good way of doing it, because like Kathy said, I mean, there's going to be some things if you're doing cost on a project, then and estimating, that's going to come much quicker to you and clearer to you than if you aren't doing scheduling. And so if you're not quite as up to speed on some scheduling terms or the definitions, then by far that would be where you should study more. So it goes back to what Kathy said. I definitely, if you are familiar with estimating and costing, you do that 10, 12 hours a day, every day, that's going to be much clearer in your head than some of the other disciplines that you may not get as much time or experience in.
Yeah, I would add to that, which I think is an excellent question and answer. And so obviously you want to look at the main recommended practice, but you have to also pay attention to the fact that there are other recommended practices that are mentioned elsewhere in the study materials and so forth. So you need to pay attention to all of the associated or affiliated recommended practices.
Do we have any other questions in the Q&A box?
We do. A new one just came in. For the CCP, studying from the study guide plus skills and knowledge 6th edition is considered a good study approach.
I think so. Yeah, I think so too. I think that the biggest thing is that don't just concentrate on the skills and knowledge 6, because as Charlie was alluding to, there are RPs that are out there that would have, and the TCM, the total cost management framework, there are potentially questions that are coming out of the TCM framework. And so there are the body of knowledge, the AACE body of knowledge in its totality is where the questions for the exam is coming from. So don't bypass some of the body of knowledge and only concentrate on 1 or 2 pieces, because you may miss some concept that is out there as described in TCM or other places.
What else do we have out there?
I was just going to say, in the chat box, I put the recommended study materials for the CCP and the CCT.
Good.
And Charlie, do you still have your question ready for us?
Well, I have several.
Oh, good.
So earlier in response to one of the questions, the point was made that the certified cost technician is not renewable. And the expectation is that you achieve that, and then you're going to, through additional experience and so forth, and your career is going to advance, you're going to move up to the certified cost professional. But there is a recertification element to sustaining that certification. So the CCP is recognized or awarded for a 3-year time period. And then within that 3-year time period, through continued experience, continued training and education, even volunteering to participate in any of the activities that are sponsored by AACE International, you can gain credits or points toward your recertification. But you have to recertify for each of the professional level certifications every 3 years. And I don't see Valerie or Sarah frowning, so I must have nailed that one. So, my second question is, can someone address the testing centers versus the online proctoring?
Sure. It's just a matter of which one of us is going to address it. So
I'd be happy to.
I'm going to take the first stab at it. So I'm not going to say it was a good thing, but AACE was prepared when COVID hit early 2020, because we're international. We had people that lived, not very many, but we had people that lived in outlying areas where there were no criterion testing centers. And a testing center is a contracted facility. They're contracted with Criterion, that's part of their network, but they actually have a facility that has an area with computers and connectivity and proctors that are there that deliver our exams. And there were places in the world where that just wasn't feasible. So testing centers was the way that we started computer-based testing, but we started to utilize what's called online proctoring. Not very often, but we prepared all of our exams for that because we could never predict if someone was living in a very remote area and didn't have access to a testing center. We didn't want to give any barriers for them to be able to take their exams. So we prepared all of our exams, not knowing which one they would want to take, for online proctoring. And that really worked well for us in 2020, because when everybody got their equilibrium back and were ready to at least start moving, even though we were all sheltering in place, many of our people were able then to take their exam through online proctoring. So online proctoring is you sitting at your home and taking your exam. But it's really not as simple as that, because there are some things, some steps, there's some system requirements that you have to go through in order to be eligible to take your exam through online proctoring. So that is a quick overview of the difference between the two. And I'm leaving room for Val and Sarah, who deal with this day in and day out, who might give a little bit more nuances about online proctoring or testing centers.
I was just going to add for online proctoring, because I've dealt with so many candidates who have taken it, I hear positive feedback and I hear negative feedback, both. Positive is that it's at their convenience. Some testing centers are not open when somebody might be available to take their exam. So say like a Saturday or Sunday. I had somebody who wanted to take it at midnight. There are obviously no testing centers that are open at that time. So, I mean, the opening of so much availability to take the exam is excellent for, if you want to do online proctoring. Some of the drawbacks for that is, one, you have to use your own computer and your own internet. So if your internet is a little unstable, or your connectivity is a little unstable, then it could present a problem. You would not be a good candidate for online proctored exams. You also, if you have a family around and you have kids running around, it could be a problem because you have to be in an isolated, quiet space with no interruptions. You can't talk. You can't do anything like that, because what that does is it triggers the proctor to be like, oh, hey, they're talking to somebody trying to get an answer. So that will actually shut down your exam, which can be inconvenient. But, we do allow for both. We allow people to take bio breaks. We don't allow people to have snacks or drinks or things like that at their desk, much to my chagrin, because, I can't go very long without a snack. But, you can either access it at the testing center. You can get, if you have a snack in your locker, if you need to have a drink, because 5 hours or 3 could be a very long time. And also you can let the proctor know when you're taking your online exam that, hey, I need a bio break. The caveat to that is the time, either place, will continue to tick down in your exam. So you don't want to go and have lunch on your, like in the middle of your exam. You want to just do a quick snack and get back to it.
And if you're interested, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say one more thing. Sorry, Sarah.
Okay.
Keeping in mind that sometimes looking at an exam on a laptop can be difficult. So having a monitor with an external camera is definitely beneficial when you're considering an online proctored exam. And I am done. Sorry, Sarah.
No, that's okay. Just going to say, if the online proctored exam is something that you think you would be interested in, on our website, if you go under certification, there is a link to review the online testing requirements and also to run a system check to test your microphone, webcam, and your upload and download speeds to see if your computer meets the system requirements. Okay, and we do have, if no one else has anything to add to that, we do have another question in the Q&A. For employment verification, what can you do if you cannot get one employment verification letter from one previous employer, if it was acquired by another firm, closed operations, etc.? So your current employer can verify your previous employment. They can include that in the letter verifying your current employment. They just need to know, they need to state your job title, your dates of employment, and the company that you worked for previously. A lot of times that does happen. And if your current employer did conduct a background check and can confirm those items, that they can put that in the letter for your current employment.
There are very rare cases where a current employer has not validated your prior experience before they've hired you. But if by chance you don't have enough experience verifiable, meaning that you've only been at your employer for say 2 years and you need to show 4 years of experience, you contact certification headquarters staff, because we can think of other alternate options for you.
Awesome. Does anyone, go ahead, Charlie? I knew you had another one.
Well, I emptied one sleeve, so I'll go empty the other one now. So the AACE certifications are not self-accredited. We rely on an independent outside accreditation body. So that's what gives our certifications additional standing within the various industries that the folks that are certified by AACE touch. So is it possible for Penny or Val, can you give us a few sentences on the CESB accreditation?
Sure.
I'll defer to Penny on that one.
I'll be happy to talk about it. Well, our accreditation is through the Council of Engineering and Scientific Specialties. So everyone who sits at the table for that particular council, they have some type of engineering, whether it's professional or graduate level, or some type of engineering or scientific specialty related technician. There's a whole host of them. And so our standards, you know, there are two others that are out there that are pretty well known and big. But the reason that we sought CESB accreditation and keep with it is it's very focused. It's a lot like AACE. It's very focused narrowly on the domains or disciplines that are in our own industry. And our accreditation goes through a rigorous evaluation process, application process that is peer reviewed. So it's not paid evaluators that are coming in just to look at a list and to check them off to say that you do this. I'm not diminishing the other, please don't hear that. I'm not diminishing what those other standards are. I'm just saying that's another, to us, is another layer of validation, third-party accreditation to look at what we say we do, because we can say whatever we want. We have to prove it to this body of other peers that we actually do it. So they're going through every policy, every procedure. They're going through all of our documentation. They're making sure that what we say in a policy is actually reflected on our website. So it's a very rigorous process that we feel is more in line with what it is that we do. And that's why we choose the Council of Engineering and Scientific Specialty Boards. And not all of our certifications at this point, some are they don't have the volume that we need yet, or they're too new, like our PRMP, but we do strive to have them all accredited at very shortly. But we just have to wait that process out, because you can't just start a certification program and then submit an application for accreditation, because they're going to be like, well, you don't have enough data here to prove anything about this exam. So there is a waiting period in order to do that. So I hope that gives a good overview as to what our accreditation process is and why we choose to be with the CESB accreditation.
Yeah, that was great, Penny. Thank you. And my follow-up observation would be, much like our professional and expert level certifications that require a recertification effort, with the CESB accreditation of our certifications, those also require reaccreditation. We have to earn that accreditation periodically in order to
5 years.
5 years,
Yeah.
yes.
When we get accredited, it's for 5 years. And then we have to go through the same process. So for those of you that are certified, many of you on this call, going through that process is you've got to get all your documentation together and submit it, and have to prove that you're worthy of keeping what you've already earned.
Thank you.
Any other questions in the Q&A box?
There is.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Once approved to take the test, how long do I have before I need to sit for the exam? Because this person is thinking their workload might increase. So once you are cleared to sit for the exam, that is the day your 6-month registration period begins. In that 6 months, you can take the exam up to 3 times, twice at a reduced fee. So it's very important. We always suggest and remind people that you want to make sure that once you apply to sit for the exam, that you are ready to take the exam. You don't want to spend that 6 months studying, because that 6 months does go by really fast.
We do have another question. There is a risk management chapter. Does the test include questions about software like Crystal Ball, Monte Carlo, etc., or just concepts?
No, our exams do not favor a specific software, even if you're talking risk or scheduling. We have been very careful to not have questions that are software specific, because not all of our candidates may or may not have that access to that kind of software. So the exam questions are very much concept based and very much scenario. They're not just definitions out of the skills and knowledge. They are scenario based, and a lot of times they are taken from real work environments and real work scenarios, as with risk. And so you need to have that experience, or if you have that experience, you would be able to answer them as a concept, not a specific how a software works or what it does or doesn't do, because that's not the reasoning behind what we're testing and the competence of what we're testing.
Yeah, that's a great point, Val, and it ties into some of the earlier discussion about the exams test the candidates' competencies.
Right.
Right.
If I can add in there, of the items that you mentioned, no, we do not talk about a specific piece of software, but you mentioned Monte Carlo. Monte Carlo is not a piece of software. Monte Carlo is a technique that multiple softwares will address. So we do address statistical analysis, and Monte Carlo is a statistical analysis tool. I'm not saying that Monte Carlo is on the exam, but it's fair game. As opposed to asking you a question about Primavera or a particular scheduling or another particular scheduling software.
Mhm. Any other questions?
There is a question that says, can you expand on the upcoming CCP prep course you mentioned earlier? So,
Unfortunately, we don't know all of the details, and I would be hesitant to speak on behalf of our events department who are working on that, and our cooperation with the education department. So I know that Val put in the chat a link on our website that might help you get into that direction, but I would be very hesitant to elaborate on that particular event when we don't have the finalized, I don't believe we have the finalized day. Yes, go ahead, George.
I just want to make sure everyone understands that we, as the administrators of the certification exam, the cert board, may not produce or conduct training.
Yes.
According to our certification, our accreditation.
Yes.
That is a firewall to prevent, teaching to the test.
Mm-hmm.
Any review courses are conducted by people who have no contact at all with the exam.
Right.
They may be certified individuals, but they do not know what's on the exam.
Right. Yes, thanks for bringing that up, George. It coincides with the accreditation discussion that we had a few minutes ago. That is a major, and it is for all accreditations. The other two accreditation bodies out there have the same standard, that you have to demonstrate that there is a firewall between that. So no one on this panel can be out there teaching certification review courses or doing anything or being involved in any of that, because it would violate our accreditation standards, and it would violate their agreement to serve on the certification board.
And that is,
oh, go ahead.
that is the role of our education board, our AACE International Education Board, You know, AACE is built on the education board, the technical board, and the certification board. So we as a certification board have our responsibilities in testing the competence, and the education board have their responsibilities in teaching and helping our candidates find the resources and the courses that will help them sit for the certification. So there truly is the Ed board, that is their responsibility.
Now, when George said that the person giving the review course does not know what's on the exam, I think that it's important to specify that the person is certified who will be leading that review course, who is certified in CCP. So they have taken the exam, but they just don't know the specific questions on that. And again, do not have any ties with the certification board.
But one thing that we do with the CCP and the CCT is the exams are constantly being reviewed and questions are being reviewed. They're being made sure that we are clear and that the answers are correct. And so just because someone becomes certified several years ago does not mean that those specific questions are still on the exam in the same answers are there or anything, because the exams are maintenance, if you want to call it that, on a very regular basis. And some questions are taken out, some are new ones are added in. And so there is no way to have a person who is certified know what is on the test today versus if they took it some time ago.
Right.
Yes.
Even if they took it last month.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Last month. Right.
It would be a snapshot of just their test form. So,
Correct.
you know, that's what the certification board and certification staff focus on. It's that continual maintenance of the certification data bank and making sure that there are as many unique variations of test forms that are out there. So a person who took the exam and passed it only had that snapshot only. And to Val's point, to Val Venture's point, that could have changed. And there's no way that a person could teach a certification review course and say and claim that they know what's on the exam, because that would be a big red flag. Do not spend your money, because there's no way for them to know that. And so we're getting close to the top of the hour. I'm not going to stop. I know we still have, I see on the Q&A, but I just want to let you know I'm sharing the screen so that at the conclusion of this, or while you're here now, if you think of something, you can scan this. It'll take you to a form, or just simply go to our website and in the search bar type in AMA and you'll get the same exact form. If you can think of anything after we conclude today that you just thought of that might help to enhance your understanding of CCP and CCT certification, just go ahead and use that form, and we at headquarters will get that. And if we can't answer it, we'll get it to the panelists that can get an answer for you. So that's why this is up here. I know that you may have another question, so go ahead.
Okay, one last question is, what type of calculator is accepted? Can you use a financial calculator, scientific calculator? So any style battery operated calculator is permitted.
Yes.
Is there a prohibition on programmable calculators?
No.
There is not. They are all any type of calculator that a person wants to use. That's what they may use.
And they have to furnish it. The testing centers do not furnish the calculators.
That is correct. They also cannot use the calculator that's on their computer.
Yes.
Yes, so that's a good point. They need to be battery operated. Make sure you have fresh batteries if you're bringing your calculator. You will not have access to an outlet to plug it in. And so it can be anything that you feel comfortable using, but it needs to be battery operated. And actually you can't use nearly anything. You can't even use Control-Delete to reset your computer. It will shut your computer down. So you can't use Word, you can't use the calculator or a notepad. Everything is separate. If it's not inherent in the actual Criterion program, you cannot use it. So we're exactly at 7 on my time. I have 7:01. So I would like to, thank you all for joining us. Thank you, panelists, for spending your time, whatever time zone that you're in, and your expertise to answer questions to interested attendees. Thank you, attendees, for showing up and spending some time with us. We hope that you gained some valuable information. It doesn't end here. At any time, you can email me directly, you can email my staff, but you certainly can use this QR code in the form on our website to ask any questions that you might have as you leave us and start thinking about some of the things that we talked about today that might want you to ask more questions. So thank you all for coming. We will edit this video. It'll be on the website if it's something that you want to refer back to, or maybe even just refer to your friends. We have, for the next 5 weeks, we have another Ask Me Anything related to a specific certification. So if you are earnestly looking for more information about that, please make sure that you register, and we will see you at that time. So other than that, thank you so much. I'm going to end the session, and have a good evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.